Okay, great. We're going to start the session now, and I'm very glad to hand the session over to our host for today, Oscar Marleyfelt.
Thank you very much for this invitation. My name is Oscar Marleyfelt, and I'm an art teacher in Amsterdam at the high school, Montessori Lyceum, and also at the Breitner Academy, which is a university for arts and art students to, they are teaching how to teach art, actually. I'm in the Wicked Arts Assignments book with 2 assignments. Very glad with that, but also very inspired with all the other competitors. And this session, we have 4 speakers. We have Jacques Blomerstein, Mark Graham, Gila Kolb, I hope I say your name right, and myself. At the end of the session, I will tell you something about an assignment I do at the high school. But first, the theme. The theme is self-engage, and I think it's very interesting because most of the arts assignments I found at, for instance, at the high school, are more technically or more based on to develop a skill or especially focused on the result. And I find it very interesting that students can teach how you can engage with the world or engage with your own vision or your own way of looking at the world. So this is the theme we're talking about. We have 10 minutes for each speaker. And after 9 minutes, I will give a friendly announcement that you have lost for 1 minute. And then there's a short time for questions. And if it's worked out fine, we can unmute our mics and can ask something, or you can just teach your question in the chat, and I will ask it at the speaker. Maybe it's better to start so we can use all the time. And maybe later on we can discuss together with all the participants about the theme and how it's so important in the actual arts. The first speaker is Jacques Blomerstein. Blomerstein, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
well,
I'm there.
Jacques Blomerstein studied at the Artes University of the Arts in Arnhem and worked as an art teacher at the Marleyfelt Lyceum in Doetinchem, which is in the Netherlands. And currently he works at the ROC schools with groups taking their finals. He also active himself in art in various ways, from activist events to conceptual, not made work, which made me very curious, Jacques. The floor is yours.
Okay. Can I start now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody here in the Netherlands in this secondary school where I am now, where I already worked for 35 years. And I'm together here with some colleagues. Behind me, you can see Wieger Hupkes, and besides him is Jaap Hentenaar. And Jaap Hentenaar was student here, but is now our teacher as well at the school. And the school is called Marleyfelt Lyceum in Doetinchem. And behind me is Wieger Hupkes. With him, I made the last 20 years intensively exhibitions with works of art of our students. And at least these last 20 years, 2 exhibitions each year. And I want to say first that it is for us enormously important, these exhibitions, because they feel themselves so stimulated by being part of these exhibitions that they become so much more ambitious and work a lot better than when it's just for school, because it is a sort of adventure for them. And sometimes it's really professional. So now I want to share some images of these exhibitions. And here they come. This first image is of an exhibition in 2011, almost 10 years ago. where we had the theme, the Didactics of Ugliness. So it is almost similar to the workshop, Make Things Ugly. And it really stimulated the students to make things more experimental and joyful. And the funny thing here is that these are us, the teachers, who are giving birth to the pieces of art of our students. And in the same exhibition, this was another room. And then here you see Jaap, who is behind me, but then he was still a student at our school, working on a sort of drawing on a wall. And another exhibition, I would like to tell a lot about this one, about privacy, which was in 2014, a very actual subject. It was sensational, but it's a pity, but it is to have an idea. And then an exhibition in which our students were on a really professional atmosphere, because it was the Sonsbeek 2016 art event, which in the Netherlands is really something. And it was organized by a group, or not organized, but curated. The curators of this art event were the Rua Rupa group, an Indonesian art collective, who are at this moment, they are the curators of the Documenta in Kassel. But then 4 years ago, they were in Arnhem, and they had chosen a theme, namely transaction. So I asked my students to work on this theme. And then later I asked the curators if they were interested to come to school to see what my students had done. And they did, and they were so enthusiastic that my students were asked to participate in the Sonsbeek 2016. And here one student is giving a presentation about his ideas. And then later on, all this work of them, small works, are in the Arnhem Museum. Those are really conceptual works with a lot of philosophical ideas behind it. Those kids can be so incredible, interesting. And they asked me as well to make an exhibition in this Ruru house, that is the main organization house. And this is the garage door exhibition. We worked with garage doors. That was really funny. And we went to a showroom as a sort of excursion. So not to a museum, but to a showroom of garage doors. We had really a lot of joy with all those students. And this was an exhibition about it. And then the last one, the not made work. That is a work that is a sort of, first we had this ugliness, this Didactics of Ugliness, but then we went forward and thought it should be more like ready-mades, or that it is not so constructed, not forced, but just as if it is natural there. And so there was another idealistic part of it, that you could not see the difference between professional artists and the amateurs, the students. And that was so fantastic to work on that, that you could not see the difference between the arts of those two groups, because there were 40 professional artists in this exhibition. And there were about 200 students. It was a very large place, an empty room. And it was, let me see, with 200 students, 40 professional artists. And this is a work of students who wanted to it was a real process, a natural process. They had made things, were not satisfied, and it was all about their duties and their boundaries. They wanted to make themselves free, and that is why they burned it, and that was a sensation on itself. To burn this all, this is not so easy, and then hang it on the walls, but it was very nice to do. And this is in the book of the Wicked Art Assignment. It is the plastic soup raining from heaven and growing on the surface of the planet. And the next one, here you can see an overview of mostly professional artists and some of the students. And you can imagine that the visitors that come to an exhibition like this, that they do not really understand where it's all about. For them, it's mostly mysterious. So the clue by all these exhibitions is that the students lead the visitors around. So when a visitor comes to the exhibition, then the student goes to the visitor, asks if he wanted to be led around, and those students know everything about all what there is to see. For them, it is a sort of normal. And for these visitors, they really don't understand. So when those students tell about the work, all those visitors really, they melt down and they are so happy and interested. So that is the clue of exhibition with students. And here you can see a work in the front of students, but at the back, this is of my colleague Wieger Hupkes, who made this stone in a sort of Chai Twombly way at the wall. And at the left, you see work of his wife. And at the floor, the small little things there are of his children. They made that. And that is so sort of the essence of this way of working, to let it grow natural, and that it was, if it was already there, that was the idea of this exhibition.
You have 1 minute left. I think you're going great.
Okay. So this was the contribution of Jaap, who is here behind me. And he let someone broom the floor at the opening of the exhibition. And then tomorrow there is an opening of my own exhibition in an old church that is about religion and politics, which is a special actual item at this moment in America. So now I can come back. So can I go on a little bit?
Well, I think there's also time enough. We need some time for questions as well, but maybe I think you have to, can use 30 seconds to end up your fantastic presentation.
Well, there is something I want to advise everybody, and that is this curriculum we made. It is only images, and we are all working on that with a lot of enthusiasm. And the management does not really know where, they don't understand it. And they think they understand it when it's normal text. But, well, this becomes a subject, you know, when you make your curriculum in images, it works fantastically.
Yeah. So the curriculum is an artwork as itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. And it's, well, inspiring to see what great work your students make as well. And I was wondering, do the students find it difficult to try to make ugly work, or try to make work they're maybe not?
No, they are really enthusiastic about making ugly work, because it is exactly what Christopher Lin told already in his workshop.
Yeah.
They become a lot more free and experimental. So you must stimulate them to take other materials. And when they use other materials, they don't fall back on their own traditional way of designing.
Yeah.
So
I have a question from Sarah. She asked us, why is it important for your students to present in a professional artistic context? Which is a very good question. So why do you use it out of the context of the school and show the work of your students in other places?
Well, that is because when you let them make things for school, it is just for a score for school. And when you let them make that in a professional context in society, they feel so much serious.
Yeah.
When they own it, they really own their own work.
Yeah.
And they are so much more proud because they can show it. And all those visitors are so enthusiastic when they tell about it. So it works very good.
Yeah. I have another question as well. Do you have an online copy of your curriculum? I'm very curious. It sounds very good. It sounds like commercial goal.
I presume it is. Yes.
We do have.
My colleagues here, they have one. So
okay. Yeah. Maybe you can share it in this chat.
I don't know.
Not right now, but
no.
Later on.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, thanks. Another question from Yvonne. What do you think makes the results of your students different from standard lessons you often see?
That is what we as teachers bring in, because when we should not bring in another way of working, they would be just traditional, making all the same things. So we must sort of challenge them to do other things. And when they do really other things, they are so glad, because it is also a sort of democratic idea that when they are all playing like children with all kinds of materials, they are all equal. They are all just experimenting.
Yeah.
And then everybody's happy, sort of. And everybody is enthusiastic about each other's work.
Yeah.
And otherwise you are always this some very good and the rest is a sort of bad.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you so much. I think we have to give the floor to the next speaker, and maybe afterwards we have some discussion together. But the next speaker is Mark Graham. And Mark Graham is an art professor at the Brigham Young University in Provo, which is in Utah. Graham is an internationally known illustrator of children's books. His research interests include teachers' education, place-based education, graphic novels, ecological holistic education, secondary art education, design thinking, STEAM education, and Himalayan art. So, makes me very curious. Mark, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
You can share your screen if you like.
I can do that.
Thanks a lot.
All right, can you see that, everybody? Jacques, that was amazing. I want to come work in your school. That's me at the Quantum Physics Motel that is open and closed at the same time. This is what it looks like behind my school. This is where we're located in Utah, next to Colorado. You can see it's right there in the United States. And the advance of COVID in our area. So these were my students a couple months ago. And these are my students in the Delhi airport at 3 a.m. Like Anne, I like to think about curriculum as walking around. So these are my goal in life, is to get my students in tents someplace. My project was about failure. And the prompt was to try something that is sure to turn out badly, an experiment so ambitious or outlandish that is almost sure to fail. Failure, an act of failing or proving unsuccessful. Try something that is sure to turn out badly. Use some kind of self-imposed constraint or limitation, or use your own existing limitations or personal boundaries. Try something that will fail. Dream so big that you're almost sure to fail, or try something so risky that failure seems inevitable. And so that's what I try from time to time. Here's a project one of my students did, Finding Jesus, painting with mud in the dark in a cramped space with a left hand, with no painting tools, dropped and left in the rain. Here's an example. And this evolved over the course of her time, that she said, in a cramped space with limited time in the hospital waiting room with no painting tools, using transient medium, dropped and left in the rain. And she ended up doing hundreds of these paintings that were designed to fail. Failure 2, create an art show for the homeless. Failure 3, blindfolded, he made soft objects thrown by wife. Failure 4, hand building, left hand, no ceramic tools, only wet clay, hand building. All in all, it was a beautiful experience, and I learned a lot about what I am capable of with my left hand. Next time I will try to throw on the wheel blindfolded. Failure 4, build a huge paper airplane from a newsprint, fly it from the balcony. This could never fly. It was impossible. Failure 4, no possible way a person could gather all the shotgun shells in Saratoga Springs. I knew this activity would fail because there was no possible way one could gather all the shotgun shells because they were so spread out and sometimes hard to see. I was only able to collect 332 shotgun shells in that time. This was a challenging, very personal experience for me. I thought a lot about the environment and how my collecting was helping a tiny bit, but I knew that no matter how much work I did, I could never fully heal the place on my own. My husband and I had fun shooting at paper targets and soda cans, which we did clean up later, but there's no mistaking we left a mark both literally and figuratively on the environment. Here's some pictures of their failure. Failure 6, inspired by a story of a man who was commissioned to paint the perfect painting and painted a perfect circle, I decided to draw a perfect circle using an Etch-a-Sketch and made 49 attempts. Years later, one student said, I guess that topic has been on my mind because I feel like I'm failing at a lot of things lately, and it has been very discouraging. To make a long story short, I failed at the job. I tried my hardest and couldn't keep up, and was mentally told I could quit or be fired at the end of the week. I now have a job I love, which doesn't pay all my bills, which is a new failure. I wonder how success and failure could be the same things. Your assignment has come to me over and over again because it is the first time I've been told that failure was a good thing, something to think after. Here's a longer narrative of that. I was at a loss because I've never failed at anything I've tried my hardest at. I'm not sure my work ethic has quite bounced back since. Failure was a good thing. Lately, I've been more aware of when people around me discuss failure or success and have multiple stories of people praising success all around me. My mom teaches elementary school, and just last week she was telling me that she rewards students who get good scores in the game with success, which is a Skittle. The S on the candy is for success, and all the students talk about how success tastes so good. I wonder how both success and failure can be good things. I wouldn't say that failure tastes like a Skittle. And that is the end of my presentation.
Wow, perfectly on time. real great work. I understand you also let your students write a lot about their work, is it?
Yes, they ended up writing a lot about it because it made them think about things.
Dat ik de soep ging doen.
Ja.
Johan, misschien kan je je microfoon even muten.
Oh, sorry. sorry.
But enjoy the soup.
Yeah, enjoy the soup. I was wondering, did they develop a new perspective on their own way of making art? Is that your goal with these classes?
Well, yes, I think so. Kind of like Jacques, I was trying to have them think about things outside the normal range of what they might be able to do. And a lot of them discovered that they could do things that, they ended up becoming huge projects for them, just thinking about this limitations that they might have or limitations that are imposed upon them.
Yeah. And I think we also have a question from Annelies, and I think it's about your presentation. The question is, would it be possible to add other disciplines in your project, like dance, theater, or music?
I think that's a great idea, Annalise. I think that's what I'm going to do next. Yes, great. I love that idea. Thank you.
And another question from Christine. Would you say the assignments were suitable for primary or middle school as well?
That's a really good question. We'll have to try them out and see.
Mm-hmm.
Great question.
What do you think?
I think that in schools, at least in the United States, the idea of failure is really difficult. Students are told that they can never fail.
It's the same in Amsterdam as well.
They have to get the right answer. And so asking them to fail on purpose might be liberating, I would think.
In that perspective, I was wondering, do you give them grades, or how did you, can they fail in this project?
I have a difficult relationship with grades.
Yeah.
I always have. I taught high school in New York City for 20 years, and I always had a difficult time. Grades were problematic for me. Yeah. And so I give grades, but my criteria for grading are sometimes rather arbitrary and random.
Yeah. Another question, how do you get your students to write about failing, failing to cliches or superficial, obvious observations?
I try to embrace the cliche and the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that can be the ultimate failure. You know, we're always saying, avoid the cliche.
Yeah,
What if we embrace the cliche for a while?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I think we are really inspired by your presentation. Maybe you can back later on the end, but I think I introduced the next artist and presentation. And it's Gilda, I hope I say it right, Gila Kolb.